So I've been using the iPhone 15 for the past 2 weeks as my daily driver, and this is by far the most boring phone I've used this year. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing really wrong about this phone, but at the same time, there's nothing exactly exciting about this phone. Even though this phone is very similar to the iPhone 16 that I just recently reviewed, and I really liked that phone, I recommended it, it's difficult for me to recommend this phone. But at the same time, if you recently bought an iPhone 15 just like I did, you should not be too worried. Let me explain. So with the iPhone 15 being the little brother of the iPhone 15 Pro, it of course has slightly worse components like a slightly worse camera, slightly worse build quality, screen, and other things, including a slightly worse processor, the A16 inside. Now, normally this isn't really a problem. I've said this many times before that nowadays you can get pretty much any phone, even if it's a couple of years old, and you'd be fine. You almost never have to worry about the performance because phones have gotten so good that almost all of them can handle pretty much all the tasks an average user does on their phone, whether it's calling, texting, browsing, watching videos, or even playing games. And this iPhone is no different. It handles all of that perfectly fine. But the problem is with the A16 processor. This phone does not support any Apple Intelligence feature. This means it does not have the new intelligent Siri, does not have new animations, no visual intelligence, no object eraser, none of that. Now, if you watched any of my previous videos, the truth is Apple Intelligence right now isn't really intelligence because the iPhones that do have those features currently, they're not very good, those Apple Intelligence features, because what Apple had promised us a year ago just doesn't exist. However, it's not exactly clear when we might see these features working on an actual iPhone. But the problem with getting this iPhone now is that if Apple decides to finally release those features in a few months or even a year, then all of a sudden your fairly new iPhone is going to feel like very old very quickly. But let's just say you still want to get this phone. You don't really care about those other features, or maybe you already have this phone like I do. What about the other things on this phone? For example, build quality is not bad. It has Gorilla Glass on the back, ceramic shield on the front, and an aluminum frame, with the entire phone being IP68 water and dust resistant. However, when you look at the design, it's almost identical to the iPhone 14 and 13, with the only difference being slightly rounded edges. They're not as sharp as they used to be, and I guess the matte finish instead of a glossy back glass. But if you're going to put this in a case, which most of you will, this phone will just end up feeling like an iPhone 14 or even a 13. It will not feel new in any way. The battery life is also not bad. This phone has a 3,349 milliamp hour battery inside, which is around 200 milliamp hours smaller than the iPhone 16 battery, which I think was really good. I think iPhone 16 has one of the best battery lives. It's excellent. This phone almost always lasts me the entire day on a single charge, and I usually end my days around 40 to 50% battery, sometimes much lower depending on how much I use the phone throughout the day. Now, there have been days when I forgot to charge this phone at night and I needed it to be charged next morning as quick as possible. And for that job, I have this 140 watt charger from Charge, and this thing is a beast. This thing can not only charge my iPhone, but also my MacBook Pro and iPad at the same time at full speed. Not many chargers can do that. Even if you happen to have the most expensive, latest and greatest 16-inch M4 Max MacBook Pro, this thing can even charge that at its maximum supported charging speed because this has power delivery 3.1 super fast charging. The dotted pattern on this can also turn into a screen that can show you how much power each connected device is drawing in real time. So you can see if your devices are actually fast charging. And hitting the white button can also change the orientation of the screen. But this has now actually become my favorite charger because of all the features I mentioned, but also because I'm a big fan of this company. I've been using their power banks for years and absolutely love them. So I'm gonna leave links below, check them out. Getting back to the iPhone 15, the screen this phone has also has the same story. It's a good 6.1-inch OLED display. It has accurate colors, good viewing angles, it gets plenty bright, goes all the way up to 2000 nits, and it's a 60 Hz screen. Now, I know a lot of you don't really like 60 Hz displays, and I would agree with you. I'm also not a huge fan of them, but at the same time, I don't think there are like the end of the world, right? So if this is all you have, of course, it's very nice to have a 120 Hz display, but if this is all you have, there's nothing you can't do on your phone, nothing important that you can't do on your phone. So in that sense, this is fine, but of course, it's not exciting at all. The bezels are also kind of thick, which also doesn't really matter, but it just makes your phone look outdated. You also have the dynamic island, but it's not something I almost ever use. But it looks much better than a notch. Now this phone has 3 cameras in total, a 12 megapixel selfie camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 48 megapixel main camera. Now the main camera is not the same as the one you get in the iPhone 15 Pro. This has a smaller sensor, which means it captures less light, so the image quality is slightly worse, especially in darker conditions, but it doesn't look bad. In fact, I think it looks pretty good. Most people will be happy with this. The ultra wide angle camera is not quite as sharp as the main camera, but also doesn't look bad. Now, if you want to upgrade from a much older iPhone, maybe an iPhone 10, 11, or even a 12, then you will find the selfie camera to be quite a bit better because this has autofocus. So your selfies are less likely to be out of focus. So here's the deal. For $700, I don't think this phone is worth it. I think you'd be much better off getting an iPhone 16 for $100 extra. It's a much better phone given the price difference. You'll get a better design, bigger battery, slightly better cameras, and of course all the Apple Intelligence features that this phone doesn't have. Or if you're okay with going with a refurbished or used phone, then the best thing would be to just get an iPhone 15 Pro. It would be better than this and the 16. But of course that phone has its own limitations and drawbacks, which if you're okay with, that's going to be the best thing. So I'd recommend you to watch this video next, and I'll see you there.